Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to this episode of What Ireland Sounds Like. So when I initially planned this series, it was supposed to be actually 7 episodes, so it was supposed to finish yesterday with Anya, but then I thought about how I'm not involving any classical music in this series, and honestly it felt like a crime. So I'm adding this episode, which is featuring John Field, one of the most famous classical composers of Ireland. I'm also adding 2 bonus episodes. I chose 2 of your comments, and then so tomorrow I'm actually releasing 2 videos back to back, one in the morning and one at night or evening time. So make sure you check them out, and that will be the finale of our Ireland series. I had so much fun. I hope you guys also enjoyed all these videos. But without any further ado, let's talk about John Field and his nocturnes. Before Chopin's name get associated with the word nocturne, there was John Field, a composer from Ireland who gave this genre its soul. John Field was born in 1782 in Dublin, and even though he spent most of his life outside of Ireland, he is still considered one of the greatest classical composers of this country. He was a child prodigy, and he was giving concerts and performances at the age of 9 and playing concertos at the age of 11. At the age of 12, John Field moved to London to study with the famous Museo Clementi, a great composer at the time, but he was also a piano manufacturer. Clementi became a father figure to him, and even though he was his teacher, he was also using him to showcase his pianos all around Europe. They eventually traveled to Russia, and John Field settles in St. Petersburg, where he spends most of his adult life. Today we're gonna watch one of his nocturnes. He has a set of 18 nocturnes. I chose number 5 for various reasons. First of all, it's very beautiful, but also the harmony is somewhat interesting to me, and also I think it's one of his most famous one. But when I was looking through the book, they're actually very beautiful and very actually accessible, I would say. So if you feel like the Chopin nocturnes are not yet there for you, you can take a look at these. Some of them have more challenging, but I think in general, they can be more accessible if you want to play something nocturne, but you don't want to play Chopin yet. So the word nocturne means night music. That's a piece of music that usually evokes the stillness, the mystery, and the mood of the night. Before John Field, this word existed, but it was mostly used in vocal and chamber music. But he turned it into something new, a miniature piano piece with flowing melodies, very rich harmonies, that's something intimate and expressive. We're going to take a look at number 5, but in general the structure consists of kind of like a lyrical right hand. So imagine somebody is actually singing the right hand, and the left hand is kind of like an arpeggio, some kind of broken arpeggio that is accompanying that melody. So let's look at the first phrase together, because this is not a very long piece of music. So if you've heard Chopin's nocturnes, you probably know that he actually talked about having the influence and inspiration from John Field's nocturne. And even though Chopin turned the nocturnes into something more virtuosic at some points, Field's style is subtler and it's kind of more gentle, and it reminds me of like whispering instead of shouting. I feel like Chopin's nocturnes, they are beautiful, amazing compositions, but they are kind of like very dramatic at some points. Also, like when I was looking at the structure, nocturnes usually have like, it's like a one piece of work, so there's not like a lot of movements, but there is like an A and B section. So there's an A section which is more lyrical, usually with like the arpeggio like left hand and the melody in the right hand, but then the B section is more virtuosic, a little more usually faster tempos, and then it always comes back to the A section with a little bit of changes. Here there are B sections, you could see them, but they are much shorter and they don't get that crazy. So I think that's one of the other reasons that I was saying they're more accessible and achievable if you're looking to play something so beautiful and romantic. but you don't want to play Chopin necessarily. I remember in college, like my piano teacher was very serious and strict about play Chopin. Like that was like her beyond like the maximum level of musicianship and technique at the same time. So she would not let us play Chopin at all, not even his nocturnes or waltzes. I know like his ballades and scherzos, like sonatas, they get really crazy, but even the lower level ones, she was like, that needs a level of understanding that none of you have. But back to the music of John Phil. Let's look at the first phrase of it. One thing that was really interesting to me was the harmonies in the beginning of it. I know this microphone is not that good for playing; it's more for speaking. But I'm gonna try my best to show you. So we are in B flat major here, but then immediately we have a lot of diminished chords every other measure, and that's I think that's kind of like helps with the whole moodiness of this piece, or this number of this nocturne particularly. So we are here, and then suddenly things get interesting or mysterious right away. We're back here, and we are a home key, and then we are here, but then suddenly something again like suspicious happens, and it goes on and on. And if you add the melody, it actually becomes something very beautiful. We are in B flat major, but suddenly we have an E natural, which is not in the key immediately. So back. Again, here we are in B flat major. Here we have it diminished. We're back. And then here, so that was our kind of like first phrase. And then here it gets more, we're back, but then suddenly we have this chord here, which is again it's not a like a weird chord, it's only like an A7, but it's not in the key. So that's why it makes it mysterious. So, and then here, back, but not quite. Sorry. So that's kind of like the first phrase, and then it gets on and on and more. We can listen to that later. So there's like about one page, and then there's a little bit of like a B section here. In my opinion, this B section, he might not even think about that, but based on what I know the structure of Chopin's nocturnes are, I'm analyzing it that way. Might not be the case at all. So let's go listen to more of it. So I want to take a look at this last two measures before we get into the chromatic section here. Again, the harmony is the most interesting part to me here, because honestly, the structure of the left hand is very simple. It's just like a chord, and it barely changes. Sometimes we have like a broken sequence, or like it breaks the pattern of the left hand, but not a lot. And the right hand is actually very like a single layer for the most part. Sometimes like it doubles the top melody, like as we heard it here. But what makes it the most like interesting, it's the harmony, honestly. So here, for example, 2 or 3 measures here, we are in here, and then suddenly we hear that D flat here, and then with the mixture of E natural that we are here again. Another mysterious chord. So again, that's kind of like, and then here we are someplace new already, and then back to B flat. So that's again interesting. I don't want to get into like the analysis of the harmony that much. I don't think you need to know the exact terms, but just by listening, like some of the like most amazing performers, I'm not saying they didn't know any harmony, but they would not necessarily analyze. Maybe that was like in the back of their head, but it wouldn't like necessarily come to them initially that, oh, I gotta analyze it in order to like find the phrasing or anything. But just listening, you can feel the tension in the chords if you're familiar with classical music a little bit, and then you can hear it's kind of moving and moving, and then we are kind of like back here, and then here the harmony actually, like the left hand stays the same in the part that we're gonna hear, and then the top layer of left hand, left to right hand, just a very normal, almost chromatic scales with like the added repeated note at the bottom. And then it kind of repeats again, and then it goes on for a couple more measures, and we're back to the first melody. Yeah, there's not a lot of time because it's only 2 pages. There's not a lot of time for kind of development, so the main theme kind of comes back quite often, which honestly I don't have any complaints. It's absolutely beautiful. And we're back. So here we are back to A, as I talked about, like the structure of a nocturne, but A, usually the A section never comes back like the same exact way, because like that's just like, what's the point? So it's almost always with some like embellishments of the melody and the right hand. Usually the left hand stays the same, the harmony stays the same. It's just like kind of like embellishing. Instead of the first measure we had in the second measure, and then we have this added embellishment. Instead of ba-da-da, we have a, so it's adding that. And then that also, if you're into like improvising on your own, just on a melody, you can get a lot of ideas by just looking at nocturnes, either by Chopin or like John Field or any other person, because the structure doesn't let you to repeat the main theme and the A section, so it has to be kind of like somewhat added embellishments or ornaments or whatever. So you can learn a lot by just analyzing the right hand. Again, something comes up. Again, these are the added parts. And then here, that section comes back, the chromatic section. have a little something at the end. And I like that even because it's just only 2 measures that you got to kind of finish it. I like this like layered going down in every register. I think that kind of like adds to the feeling of getting warmer and warmer, and then finishing with like a very nice and warm sound. And then you have the same thing. It's, and then I really like this register of the piano. It's a little bit heavy if you want to play something like super fast, but it's so warm and it's so beautiful. I want to mention that John Phil did not just write nocturnes. He was actually a very like well-rounded composer. He has piano sonatas. He has, I think, a piano concerto. So just make sure you check it out. I chose nocturnes because that's what he is mostly known for, but he also has other composition. Also, a lot of other composers like Liszt, Brahms, and Schumann, they knew about Phil's composition and really respected his works and maybe influenced by them, but sadly he only lived to be 55 and he died in poverty like a lot of other artists or composers, and he never lived to see the full impact that his works had. But today he is very celebrated. He is known for being kind of like the father of nocturne, and everybody knows that Chopin got his influence from him. So make sure you go and check out his other nocturnes or other piano compositions or other compositions if you're interested. Don't forget to leave me a comment. What do you think about this composition? Especially if you're not a classical musician, I would be actually more interested to hear what you guys think, if you liked it or not. And please, as always, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you tomorrow with 2 bonus videos, so don't forget to check them out, and take care. Bye.